Background.
I reckon this is the background, yeah.
You recording?
How you going?
You look good. Your finger's not over the camera.
Here with my mate Dave Pello. I met Dave at the Church and State conference. He did a mad job at it, and we're here at this. Tell us about the rally, what it is.
So this is the March for Life, and Queenslanders who care, whether they're religious or atheist, pagan or feminist, people who care about women, people who care about children, and who agree the biological definition of human life starts at conception. It's just basic science. It doesn't require a special philosophy or belief system. It's just textbook. Life starts when there's growth and mitosis, and obviously humans reproduce humans. So what we're saying is that life deserves protection. That life deserves dignity. That life has inherent human rights. Whether or not the government agrees, it is the government's job to protect those natural human rights. But it also affects women terribly adversely. Abortion is a traumatic experience that women go through, and for the sake of ideology and philosophical agendas, that's been denied and that's been shouted down and treated with incredulity. Just because you doubt it doesn't mean it's not true. It actually is true. The statistics are that 1 in 3 women at some stage in their life will have an abortion. It's a walking silent epidemic, and there's just so many. Most women will suffer some form of PTSD, massively increased risk of mental health issues, suicide, depression, suicidal ideations, career failure, relationship failure, often repeat abortions or replacement children. There's all kinds of ways it manifests, and it manifests very silently. And because women have been told and trained that there's nothing wrong, they just exercise their feminine powers, then what they're actually not able to do is connect the dots very often. They're not able to go, why am I crying unexpectedly? Why am I, having these? Why am I abusing substances? And all there's so many different possible symptoms for it. And if they don't manifest for 3 to 5 years later, it can be quite often very hard to connect it back to that situation. But there's copious amounts of data that says that is the connection, that is the source. And what we're asking the government to do is to not make the legislation around abortion more liberal, more relaxed, less regulated, with less protections for women. There should be more counselling, there should be more support. So many women say that if they had have only felt like there was different choices, they would have made a different choice, that they regret their abortion because they simply weren't offered any support. But if they'd been offered a little bit of support, all the funding in this state goes towards pro-choice abortion counselling, people that are trying to help women kill their babies. That's ridiculous. Why aren't we offering women the support, the counselling, the training, the wisdom to actually make an empowered choice to be mothers and to be parents?
So it's not fair, like as in it's sort of like you think of the ABC and SBS. There's another example where they get all this government funding and it's all one-sided. Like there's no, you don't get the conservative side or a traditional side of perspective, you know what I mean? And then here we look at the funding and boom, they're pouring money into this and that. And it maybe if they were just like, hang on a minute, let's see if we can help people adopt easier or, and do all these services better for women. So like that can change the whole dynamic for this woman, feel like in support. They're taking our money. Like one thing I think is what should absolutely happen, and it probably won't, but one thing I would love to see happen, it's like, why is my taxpayers' dollars even paying for an abortion? Like, isn't there private clinics where you could go and get a payment plan or a loan from them and you can pay them back for your abortion? And like, maybe these people are in a financial situation, they're like, I can't afford to have this baby. Well, it's like, okay then, but we shouldn't have to pay for it. You should, okay, you go to the private sector, go to a clinic, you pay for it yourself. I mean, of course, I wouldn't like there to be that situation happening at all, but, people will do it.
The lack of choice there is, and these pro-abortionists actually claim to be pro-choice, but let's put that myth to rest once and for all. There's over 10,000 abortions every single year in Queensland, possibly 12 to 14,000. But being conservative, 10 to 14,000 abortions per year in Queensland. Now, if we wanted to offer women choice, there has to be an alternative. If it's not pro-abortion choice, it's actually pro, the ability to make one of many choices, which is informed and empowered, then there has to be alternatives. But there's less than 10 adoptions every year in Queensland. So if one of those alternatives, one of those choices was adoption, why is there only 10 in 10,000? Because it's not something that the government supports. It's not something that policy supports. It's not something that the bureaucracy or the Department of Child Safety supports. They make it hard. They make it expensive. They make it something that's unappealing to women. It's dehumanizing for them and their children. They can't get any support during their pregnancy from potentially adoptive parents or the government like that. They have to have the baby all by themselves without any support, and then the baby has to go into foster care. And so many of these women who want to put their kids up for adoption were in the foster care system for themselves and hated it and never want that for their children. And so they choose abortion instead, which is twisted. But you've got to understand, if we want to offer people choice, we should make adoption easier. Even if we leave abortion as it is, we've got to make life-valuing, human-validating, dignified options available and easier. We have to support women with the choice that they do want to make, even if it's not abortion.
And so I always sort of think of it from, I'm a Christian, and I kind of think like these babies die, they're probably going to heaven. Like, it's such it's a terrible, it's such a hard thing to think of, but yes, these babies are going to heaven. Yes, there is forgiveness for these women and these people. So we're not shoveling condemnation and guilt down the throat of these people. We actually would be hey, you can come to your church, come to your local church, and be you know what, if you need to talk about this stuff, people will listen. Christians aren't going to bloody condemn you and judge you. We would like to see, and then they're jerks, you know what I mean? If you're a Christian, you follow Jesus. The guy was on the cross and forgave. He's forgive them, they don't know what they're doing. If that's God, he's awesome, great. And I just think if we can encourage people, if you've been through that, we're not here to judge you. We're here to say I think we can do a better job. The government can do a better job with our money, with the taxpayers. They work for us. There's heaps of conservatives. You look at the gay vote, there was 38% of people voted no. I think 20% didn't even vote. So 20% are just sick of politicians and politics. They hate it. And 38%, you probably actually had to be pretty brave to say no to that, you know what I mean, and have a bit of courage. But they would represent a lot of conservatives. So that's a huge block of people. And what's happening with all our money? Do you know what I mean? What's happening with our cash? Is it going to be hang on a minute, we don't really want our money going towards abortions. We would like to support these children, these families, you know what I mean? And so
it's crazy that the funding is only there for death. There should be funding there for counselling and support and wisdom, not just killing babies.
So I reckon, thanks, Dave. I appreciate it, mate.
Thanks, Dusty.
Yeah. Thanks, mate.